How to set up an assignment activity. One way to assess learning in an online classroom is to give or provide assignments. In UVLe, we have the assignment activity. The assignment activity has a comprehensive set of features, and the basic features include online submission or collection of files, setting up of deadlines, online grading, and various options for giving feedback. How to set up an assignment activity. Just like any activity or resource, you have to go to your course page and make sure that you're in edit mode. If you want to change the content of the topic sections, always start with clicking Turn on Editing. Again, if you are using tiles format, it may help to click Expand All, so that you can easily see the content of each and every topic section. Our goal in this demonstration is to create a new assignment activity under Module 1. To do that, the first step is to click Add an activity or resource under the topic section where you want to put the activity. Then, choose Assignment. Then choose Add. At the minimum, you have to write a name for the assignment activity. And in the description box, you may write here the instructions or details of the assignment. There is an option to display the description on course page, so it's up to you if you want to display it on the course page or if you want it to be hidden until the student clicks the assignment activity. And there's also a box where you can upload your files if there are attachments related to the assignment. Just drag and drop the file to that upload box. Next, we have availability. So there are different types of deadlines or important dates in an assignment activity. So as you can see, there's an option to set the starting date, and then there's a due date and a cutoff date. What's the difference between the two? The due date is the official deadline of the assignment. All output submitted after the due date is considered late, but submissions are still allowed after the due date. Due date is the basis of the upcoming events block and the calendar in marking the deadlines. On the other hand, the cutoff date is the last day that UVLe will allow submission of outputs. Enable the cutoff date if you want to have a strict deadline. So you can see here a quick illustration on how it works. Before the due date, submission is allowed, status is on time. After the due date, submission is still allowed but status is late. Until the cutoff date, you can still submit, but after the cutoff date, you cannot submit anymore. You are not required to set up all of these dates. You may set up just the due date or sometimes just a cutoff date. You may also set the cutoff date and the due date to be the same, but the cutoff date should be at least the same or after the due date. You cannot set the cutoff date before the due date. Otherwise, if you accidentally set the cutoff date before the due date, UVLe will return an error message. It will not allow you to save the assignment activity. So as you can see here, you could actually set the deadline up to the minute. You can be very specific with it. And similarly, you may set a date when UVLe will send you an email reminding you to grade the assignment. Say 2 days after the cutoff date. So always show description. This means they want to show the due date and cutoff date in the description of the activity. So it's always good to check this option. Next, submission types. So currently there are two main submission types: online text or file submission. So for online text, this means the students will type their response to the assignment activity in a text editor. So they have to be online to do that. File submission means you're requiring students to submit a file as an output, and that file can be any format. So PDF submission currently is disabled, but you can limit the file type under file submission type by changing or specifying a file type here in this field, accepted file types. Okay. The general recommendation here is to only choose one submission type to prevent confusion. So it's, are you going to require an online text or are you going to require a file submission? UVLe does allow teachers to not click any submission type. When you do this, when you do not click any of the option, this means that the assignment is an offline assignment, meaning the output for the assignment will be submitted in class or offline, personally submitted or physically submitted. So in general, if we're outside of your remote learning setup, you can create an assignment activity that does not require a submission online. So, but for this case, I will require file submission. So just don't forget to set this up. How many files can they upload, up to what file size, and what file types will be accepted. If you leave this blank, it means any file type can be accepted. So I'll just leave it as is.
The next part is submission settings. This part was recently added in the teacher basic role. If you don't see this part in the settings page, please clear the cache of your browser and then refresh the page. After doing that, you should be able to see the submission settings under assignment settings. So what are the things you can modify in this part of the assignment setting? So here you have require students to click the submit button. What is the implication of this? If you choose yes, students will have to click a submit button to declare their submission is final. This way, students are allowed to keep a draft version of the submission. On the other hand, the disadvantage is sometimes students tend to forget that they have to click the submit button. So in the end, their assignments were marked late because they forgot to click submit before the deadline, even if they have submitted the file way before the deadline. So those are the things you have to consider. If you're going to choose yes for this field, make sure that the students are given very specific instructions, clear instructions. You may also require students to accept the submission statement. So it's just an additional layer so that it is clear to them that they are submitting already the file. Attempts reopened. So this field dictates whether or not resubmission or updating of submitted files are allowed. So by default, it is not allowed. So meaning you can only submit an assignment once, and once you've submitted your output, you cannot change it anymore. So you may choose manually or automatically until pass. So what are the meaning of these values? So you have here the question mark icon. So never, the student submission cannot be reopened. Once submitted, that's final. Manually, the student submission can be reopened by the teacher, that is manually upon the request of the student, or automatically until pass. The student submission is automatically reopened until the student achieves the grade to pass value set in the grade book for this assignment, or until the assignment closes based on the cutoff date. So meaning it's just always open. Automatically until pass means the assignment is always open until the deadline. They can update it several times. And take note, if you choose automatically until pass, students can still update their assignments after the due date, but not after the cutoff date. And the implication of that is
if the student submitted the first version before the due date and updated their file after the due date, UVLe will mark the assignment late because the latest version or the final version was submitted after the due date. So those are the things that you have to discuss or explain to your students regarding deadlines. If they are going to update the file, they have to update it before the deadline, otherwise it will be marked late. And then if you're going to choose automatically until pass, you can set maximum attempts. So it can be unlimited if you want unlimited, or let's say just up to 3 times. Your third file will be final, you can't change it anymore. After submission settings, we have CROT. So again, CROT is an anti-plagiarism checker. There is a question mark here. CROT is an anti-plagiarism tool which supports the following file types, so which means it can compare the following files. And as mentioned in the forums video, it can only compare files with other student files, not with files in the internet, because we don't have the professional subscription. So if you want to enable CROT, just choose yes in this field. The last part is grade. Under grade, you can change the maximum grade or maximum point that can be earned in the assignment. So this is the baseline or the base number that is used in computing the percent grade when grading the assignment. There's also an option for blind marking. So when we say blind marking, this means that the identity of the student will be hidden from the markers. Blind marking settings will be locked once a submission or grade has been made in relation to this assignment. So take note of that. Okay, so make sure to set it appropriately before you let your students submit files. And finally, click Save and Return to Course. There you go, we've created homework number 1, our first assignment activity. That's the end of the video demonstration. For questions and clarifications, open a ticket at UP Diliman Help Desk. Visit helpdesk.ilc.upd.edu.ph. Upgrade to interactive.